reason given, by the way, why we were going into and bombing Iraq back in 1990, and that was because the war would create jobs. Now, I'm not making that one up. That was said by Secretary of State James Baker. I got that in one of my books somewhere. Now, I thought, this is the first time in 3 years that it's been in office that the Bush administration, George I, has shown any interest in creating jobs for Americans. This is just amazing. Oh, what's amazing how virtue is developed here suddenly. Create jobs, bombing Iraq to create jobs. You know, auto accidents create jobs. They do, they really do. Auto accidents are good for the economy. I'm really serious. You have wreckers, you have tow trucks, you have hospitals, emergency clinics, rehabilitation, health workers, you have lawyers, you have all sorts of things. Auto accidents are good for the economy, and I'm serious. I'm not saying that in any kind of irony. They really do good things for the economy. They create jobs. What I am saying is that what's good for the capitalist economy is not always good for the people in the society. And that's been a central theme of this talk. Then, in late November or so of 1990, the Bush administration, George I, stumbled upon another reason for invading Iraq. You know, when somebody keeps coming up with reasons for why they did something or want to do something, you can be sure they're lying. You know, when you ask someone, you say, why did you do that? You say, well, and then they come an hour later, well, you know, and also, I would really, and then they come back with a third reason. You know, you say, you're lying, you're lying. Because if you had the right reason, if you knew what you did and you weren't ashamed of it and you weren't trying to cover it up, you would just say what it was. But you keep making and slapping on reasons. You're looking for reasons to justify this war. Because you can't tell them the real reason. Because the real reason has to do with power and global investment and capitalism and oil markets and oil prices and oil profits. You can't tell them that. You can't say go out and die for Exxon. You can't say go out and die for global investments. Go out and die for U.S. superpower global investment capitalism. You say go out and die for the poor Kuwaiti babies. Go out and die for this. So in the end of November, there was a poll taken. And the poll said, it was an opinion poll that said, would you support military action against Iraq if it posed a nuclear threat? And suddenly, American opinion, which had been rather lukewarm about committing U.S. forces to Iraq, suddenly the poll got to something like a 65–70% response. And that became the theme, that Iraq had a nuclear capacity. Yes, yes, that's it. Yes, that's why we're going in to invade Iraq. And that too today, I find that very interesting. I found it very interesting back in 1990, and I find it very interesting today that that same reason is being conjured up right now, which is Iraq may have the capacity, the potential to develop weapons of mass destruction.